welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a while, and I will get into that. But this is my podcast, Heart Flow, where I, Shayla, your host, will talk about mainly it's been about my healing journey and what that's been looking like for me in different areas of my life. And also different topics that are brought to me by friends and family, coming from the perspective of a therapist, a Black therapist, and a Christian woman. My perspectives are usually very I can't think of the word, but it definitely goes against societal norms. And that's why I offer it, because it's usually very different. Today is big trigger warning, okay? Big trigger warning. Today's episode is. And honestly, I have not thought about what the title of this video would be before recording. So I don't know if you will get the topic right off the bat by the title. Bear with me, please. I ask of you as I discuss this. This is a very vulnerable moment episode for me. I've been gone since May. What's crazy is I think I was actually going to record the week. I was going to record an episode the week this occurred. So May 13th, I was sexually assaulted by someone that I was getting to know. I knew him for maybe a week. We have been conversing. We met online. We have been conversing, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, he cool. He seemed cool. He was telling me the things that sounded good, like, agreeing to the things, whatever, that sounded good to me. But he presented himself as a Christian man, one, but someone that could take accountability and like correct behavior, and someone that wanted the same things I wanted. A relationship, a long-term relationship, and we were conversing, we were talking for some time. Then I gave him my number, and we were conversing through text messages, and then online. And then over the phone. We had conversation over the phone. And he was like, so into me, right? And was applying pressure, right? Excuse me. As they say. But not in a way where I would have been like, okay, you doing too much. Like, this is a lot. Calm down, slow down, pump your brakes. Not in that way, but just like showing interest, and talking to me every day, and which I like. Talking to me every day, conversing about whatever, throwing the Lord in there, throwing in scripture, in his baby Christian way. Some will catch that. And which I was like, okay, cool. Okay, you know. And then but it was, and I would bring up different things because on a different podcast I was saying that, you know, I would bring up things that I felt would or were bothering me or whatever. I would not ignore the things that bothered me, and I didn't. And I spoke to those things, and he would listen and course correct, right? So I was like, okay, cool. This seems to be moving in the direction that I wanted to, right? So we plan to meet up the 12th, actually, my mom's birthday. We plan to meet up the 12th. But he was running late to where we were supposed to meet. He was running behind. So we didn't have that much time to like really converse for real because I had to go to work. But yeah, so we met up briefly, like 30 minutes or so, conversed, filled him out, whatever. It was like the first time meeting someone, like jitters. Nothing was like this nigga crazy. I wasn't picking up any of that, any of those things, right? And so we went our separate ways, and then there was like, you know, there was a brief intimacy then, and I was like, okay, he's not crazy, right? Because if for me, to me, in my head, if anything was going to happen, I feel like it would have. I feel like it could have happened then because, granted, we were in a public place. We were in a public place, but also not like it wasn't heavily trafficked either. You know, we went our separate ways. I went to work. He went to wherever. Still texting me, or whatever. Still showing interest. And then so I was like, you can. Ooh. I was like, you can come over, or would you like to come over? Have a little bit more time than we actually did, more than 30 minutes before, you know, in the afternoon before I need to go get my child from school. And he agreed. We were like up late conversing, having conversation, or whatever, and it was a regular conversation. He was expressing his interest in me, or whatever, and where he felt things could go if they continued to go down the path that they were going down. And I was like, okay, all right. Nothing was like marry me tomorrow, or I can see us being married next month. None of those things. But like, you cool. I can see us being in a relationship long term, whatever. Type of deal. That was conversation. And then he came over the next day. And I'm really trying to determine what type of detail I'm going to give, and I don't know if I will give much detail. I'm still trying to figure it out as I talk about it here in this space. But yeah, so I invited him over again. He was running late behind. or whatever. So the time that we had together was again shortened, and I was irritated at that, and I was telling him like, this is frustrating, whatever, because we could have had more time together, but you know, time is short now. And he had his reasons of why, excuses, really. And he got there and he was tipsy. Or I don't know, I can't really say he was drunk, but he was inebriated. He had a beer. He actually had a beer there. He brought one with him or whatever. And we were talking, we was conversing. I don't even remember what he was checking out my apartment. And he was like, you know, oh, this is a cool space or whatever. Woo, woo, woo. And he was telling me, I was asking him about, I forgot the question that I asked. I honestly don't remember the question I asked him. Something like what made him change his ways or be more on the straight and narrow, because he was a thug. I was about to use a different word. And he was telling me a bit of his path or whatever, right? So he was telling me a bit of his journey. We was talking about that, and I was actually like putting away groceries because I had just got a grocery order, so I was putting groceries away at the same time as he was talking. As we were talking, I was putting groceries away. So yeah, he was talking about that, and then he was telling me about like his car, the car he was currently driving, and the car that he was leaving out the shop or whatever, and just conversation, right? And then we began to get more intimate, and we started to kiss and make out. I don't. Is that the proper term? Do we still say make out? I don't know. But we started to kiss and make out or whatever, which was fine, right? All of that was fine. Fine for me. Nothing was like, no, I don't want to do this. And then that was in the living room-ish area. Excuse me. And then we moved to the bedroom. And it became more intimate. And this is the part where I'm not sure what to really share here. You can fill in the pieces. I feel like there was foreplay. I'll just use some PG-ish words here. There was foreplay that was fine with me. I was okay with. And then I will say that then okay, so there was foreplay, right? And I was okay with that. That was totally fine. And then I apologize for the silence, the quiet moments. I do apologize for those, especially if you're listening and not watching. My brain is pausing a lot. Okay. And then he wanted anal. I agreed. We previously had a conversation about this over the phone, not through text messages like I thought we did. It wasn't through text because I've been talking to detectives and stuff like that. So I realized it wasn't through text message that we talked about this. It was over the phone. That long conversation. We had a long conversation the night before. But I told him in that conversation, I don't do this. Okay? I don't do this. This is new for me. You have to baby step me. Take your time. Like, treat me like, not like a baby, because that is very strange to say in this context. But you have to take your time, or whatever, with me. And he agreed. He was like, okay. And his thing that he continued to say throughout conversation was like, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to destroy you. Which is something that's very interesting to say as I'm thinking about it in this moment. He was like, yeah, of course, I'm not here to hurt you. But from that moment on, it was just pain. It was pain. Pain. Like excruciating pain. Not even a little bit of pain. Like, oh, like there was, in the beginning, there was a point where I was like, maybe it's just me and I need to relax. Let me do my best to relax my body. Like, that was in the beginning. I remember that thought. But it wasn't, I couldn't. I couldn't, because it was just so painful. And what I remember the most is saying no repeatedly. I mean, like, I've never said no so many times in my life. Never said no so many times in my life. And I just remember saying it over and over and over and over again, like repeatedly. At first there was a stop and I can't. There was a stop and I can't. And he was like, you can. And there was a point where he pulled me closer to him. I don't know. It's a question that I kept getting asked by the forensic interviewer and detectives. When was it he pulled you back to him? Recollection of time is crazy. But it's not a significant moment that I remember, but I remember him having to, because I was not like close to him anymore. That would give him enough leverage to continue in a way that was comfortable for him. But after that, after the I can't and stop, there was just a repeated no, like no, over and over again, no, Like, no. Um, and there was a point where I said to myself, because I was saying no so much, there was a point where I said to myself, he's not listening to you. And I stopped. I stopped and I laid completely flat on my bed. And I was holding my body like so tightly. And I was like twisted in a way to visibly show how much pain I was in and visibly show that I did not want this anymore. And my arms were out, were laid out. And I thought, like, this will do it. Like, he will see I don't want this and get off of me, right? No. He laid on top of me. He laid his body on top of me, and he laid his arms on top of my arms. And I'm not sure, but I don't think I was speaking anymore. After I stopped speaking, I don't think I spoke anymore. But in my head, I said, Shayla, you're dissociating. And I laid there. And I tried to be in the moment as much as I could because I knew I was going to have to tell this story. I knew I did. I knew there was a part of me that knew I was going to have to tell the story again. Or not the story, but I was going to have to say what happened to me. So I tried to be in the moment. And it was very hard to be in the moment because I was in so much pain. Two people asked me, why didn't you fight him? First off, I think it's very insensitive to ask that question. But two, that wasn't even a thought of mine because of how much pain I was in. It was to get through the pain. That was my thought. Try to get through the pain so I could live. I didn't mean to laugh. That was inappropriate for me to chuckle there. And I really hope you guys can hear me because I'm not talking loud. But was laying there and I was trying to stay in the moment. Um, to tell my business a bit more, in the beginning, come on, Bible. Sorry, Lord. In the beginning, um, when I was like, let me try to relax, like maybe it's me, like let me try to relax, right? And then I realized it wasn't me. Because it was not just pain, it was just so forceful. It was so much force and pressure, like so much, it was so much force. Like, it was so much force. Um, okay, I'm trying to not, I'm trying to not be so silent, but it's hard. Um, what, I had a point to say that part. Um, what helped me like more so recognize, even though I knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't just me, but what helped me recognize more that it wasn't me is because I have done it. I have done it before. One time, excuse me. One time I have done it before. It was once with somebody that I trusted, and I gave him the same spiel or whatever, right? Like, I don't do this. And at that point, I had never, right? And so with this guy that I'm talking about with the essay, it was only my second time. Um, but my first time, I told him, I said, I've never done this before in my life. And he could tell that I am very much so a church kid that's never experienced much of anything, okay? Um, but he took his time. What I know, what the little bit I know about it is you do need to take your time, right? From the experience with him, he took his time. He was very patient with me, patient in that process. There was no rush. There was no force. He talked me through it. Okay, that. And so in this moment where there was so much pressure, so much force, um, so much pain, I said, this is not right. This is not right. This is not how it's supposed to be. But that was earlier in. And that's when the nose happened and started. Um, but fast forward, I'm laying there. I'm trying to not dissociate. And then something happens, and he's like, "You're so tense." I said, "Yeah, I don't want this. You're not listening to me. I've been saying no this whole time. You're not listening to me." And he was like, "You've been liking it." No, I haven't. Not one bit. Mind you, he's still on me while we're conversing. And he's like, you've 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 been liking it. used to stutter. And I was like, you're not listening to me. You're not listening. You're not listening to me. You're still not listening to me. And then he got up. He got up and he was standing there. And I was like, no. I said, you're not listening to me. You haven't been listening to me. And he was standing there. And his posture was annoyance. He was annoyed. Like he was frustrated, annoyed, irritated, whatever. Maybe even mad. I don't know. But his head was up like this. He wasn't looking at me. Like a face-to-face, like concern. Are you okay? There is none of that. None of it. I walk away. I go to my kitchen. And I'm trying to process what just happened. And I'm in shock. And I also tell myself, don't cry here, because he's still here. I hear him go to the bathroom. I assume he washed himself up. And then he comes to me in the kitchen. He like wraps his arm around me, gives me a little side hug and say, we can talk about this later. I didn't respond. He leaves. He leaves. I go to get my phone and I try to call my good friend, who is actually the guy that I said my first experience was with, him. I try to call him. He doesn't answer. And then I call my best friend Bookie, and she does. I know I scared the crap out of her because I was just hysterically crying when she picked up the phone. And I just kept repeating, he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. I told him to stop and he wouldn't stop. I said no and he wouldn't stop. I just kept saying he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. And I love her a lot. She was like, he wouldn't stop what? Now, this is trauma, honestly. It's not funny, but she was like, he wouldn't stop what? He wouldn't stop hitting you? He wouldn't stop what? What is it? Is he still there? And so it's not funny. But I was like, no. And I told her. And she was like, he's still there? And she was like, he's still there? I said, no, he left. She was like, is he there trying to call my stepdad? Like, what's happening? I love her. I love her so much. I was like, no, he left. I said, no, he left. And then he tried to call me, and I thought he was calling me so he can get out the gate. So I just opened the gate. I didn't answer the phone. I haven't talked to him. Well, that's not the truth. Over the phone. I haven't talked to him over the phone. But I opened the gate so he can get out. He called me again. I didn't answer. And he was like, if you don't want to do this no more, we don't have to, or something like that, right? I didn't respond. I'm talking to Bookie on the phone. I'm trying to pull myself together because I still need to go get my son from school. I changed my clothes, and I changed my clothes because I said, I will be blamed for this. So I need to change my clothes because I was wearing a dress. I was wearing a sundress. And I also have not worn a dress since that day. It's summertime, okay? I was gonna make a comment, but I'm not gonna do that to myself. Yeah, but I haven't worn a dress since that day. But I took my dress off because my thought was, I'm gonna be blamed for this. I'm gonna be blamed for this because of what I have on. So I changed into compression shorts and a t-shirt and some Air Maxes. And I went to go get my son from school. Also, mind you, I could not open my door. It was a struggle to walk out of my door. I was on the phone with my best friend, and she was like, what are you doing? No, we weren't on the phone. I forgot why we weren't on the phone at this moment, but we weren't. And I was like, I'm trying to open my door. I'm trying to get the courage to open my door. Because my sense of safety and protection was gone. I was nowhere safe at all. She was like, call me back if you need to. But I'm in the car, on the phone with her again now. And she's saying something that has me cracking up. I don't remember what she was saying, but I'm like cracking up, right? Because I'm either going to laugh or I'm gonna continue crying. And in this moment of being in the car picking up my son, I cannot be hysterically crying on the phone, or period, to pick up my son. So I'm in line, the car, the pickup line, pick up my son, I get him, we go back home. I'm on the phone with her the whole time. And then my friend calls me back because I sent him messages. He called me, he's like, what's going on, what's up? I told him. And he was like, one, I'm so sorry this happened to you. He was like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. He was like, it doesn't sound like this is something that's new for him. It sounds like this is something he does. With that being said, I need you to call the police. Before I talked to him, Boogie was like, I really want to tell you to call the police, but this is your choice. She was really trying to not. She was trying to be so soft and gentle. He was trying to be so soft and gentle with me. He was too, but he was like firm. But he was like, I need you to go. He was like, you need to call the police. I need you to call the police. He was like, and I need you to go to the hospital. And I was like, I have my son. He was like, I understand, but you need to go. He was like, I need you to go because this sounds like something that he's done. And if he's done this before, you don't know what he could have. Even if he doesn't have anything, you need to go get checked out. He said, when I get off this phone with you, because he was at work, he was like, when I get off this phone with you, I need you to call. And I need you to tell me that you called because I know you. And I was like, all right. So I did. I called the police. They came. I had to tell them what happened. I told them what happened. And this was so hard to do because it was a male police officer, right? And I felt like I was going to get judged in that moment of telling him what happened. The biggest thing that I feel like I was going to be judged by, even with making this episode, is because I invited him over. So I felt some responsibility or yes, I'm responsibility, but I'm not responsible for that man's actions, right? So, not right in a way that I need you to confirm, because I know that I know I'm right. Um, I'm not responsible at all for what he chose to do. But I did. I felt that way, and I told the officer, and he was like, "You want to press charges?" And my heart just sunk, because pressing charges mean he will know that I'm pressing charges, which goes back to my feeling of safety and not feeling safe. And when he asked me, I'm on the phone with my best friend. He asked me, and she said yes. I didn't say anything. She said yes, and then I stumbled. I stammered, whatever the word is, yes. And he was like, okay. And he was like, we need to go to the hospital. He said, he said, you can follow me, or he said, you can follow me, or I can send out a bus. I got my son with me, y'all. I have my son with me. And I'm like, who? Well, I don't want to take my son to the hospital. And who in the world is going to keep my son? This is probably going to be a part 2 episode, because there's so much here. I did not tell my family. Well, I should be more specific. I didn't tell anybody outside of my brother and my family. Initially. Hello, y'all, if y'all watch this. Now y'all know. So I was trying to figure out who the heck I could call. I didn't know who to call to get my son before I had to go, and I had to be in like within the 10 minutes. Nobody lived by me. My old neighbor across the way. I knocked on his door. He didn't answer. But I trusted him enough to keep my son. And I'm laughing because like I created this bond in this like relationship type thing between us, because he is such a quiet person. He's a quiet person. He keeps to himself. He's like people is really his MO. But I was like, you live across the way from me, okay? So I need to know who you are, especially with me having a son. Who are you? So I would just talk to him here and there or whatever, and ask him for help with certain things. Like when my son locked me out the house, he had to like hop the patio to all of that. So, but I knocked on the door, he didn't answer. But I eventually told my boss, my supervisor. I told her what happened, and I told her I was headed to the hospital. And she was like, if there's anything that I can do, please let me know. And the person that I am, I was like, there's nothing. And literally, I had nothing in my head for her to do, right? But also because of how I am conditioned to rely on no one, I said there's nothing. But then I stopped it. Not really stopped. I was driving. I was like, actually, if you can meet me at the hospital and help me with my son, I would really appreciate it. And she was like, of course. But she came and she helped. She took me to get a snow cone. Y'all call it, or they call it shaved ice, I think, out here. And then she took him back to my apartment to keep him there in case he got sleepy, because now I'm at the hospital and I don't know how long this is going to take. I thought it was going to be something quick, because, you know, the TV shows be like, oh yeah, there are the people, they check you out and you leave. And there's no real wait time, okay? So I'm at the hospital and she takes him and they're there. And then this time at the hospital oh my gosh, the nurse lady person was like, we have to wait on a forensic nurse. Didn't even know that was a thing. She was like, we have to wait for a forensic nurse. And sometimes it can be quick, and sometimes it can take longer for them to get here if they're already in the middle of something. And I was like, okay. She was like, maybe it could take like an hour. Okay, an hour is nothing. I can wait an hour. Y'all, I got there, actually, I don't remember the time. Maybe 6, between 5 and 6. I did not leave. I didn't get home until maybe 1 or 2 in the morning. Maybe later than that. I think it was 1 or 2, maybe 3. Because I was waiting on the forensic nurse most of the time. But when she got there, she was very, very sweet, very kind. And then there was also an advocate there. I'm gonna speed this up a bit, as in, long story short, there was a tear in my anus because of all of the force. There was also a part with the forensic nurse. You know, they have to take pictures, they have to ask questions, you have to tell the whole thing all over again. Ask the questions, tell the story. But then it's the actual exam. And I knew that the exam was going to be intrusive. I already knew that, right? They have to take the pictures. But they do swabbing and such. I don't know how it is vaginally, right? And I thank God, honestly, that it wasn't vaginal. I truly, truly do. And I pray for the women who experienced it vaginally. This is a bit TMI, but she had to swab me and swab the area. And this is how she knew I had a tear. When I say that was such a trigger, my God, I broke down on the table. I broke down on the table. Just boo-hooed. Because it was instant trigger. It was instant. And she was like, if you need a moment, tell me that you need a moment. I said, yes, I do. I need a moment. And she backed up. Which I appreciate. And then I went home and cuddled my son and went to sleep. After they gave me like 20 pills to take, and my stomach was doing this when I got home. Okay? The nausea medicine did nothing for me. I have to go now. But if you want a part 2 to this, there is more that I can speak on, more that I can talk about. Let me know, and I will continue, especially when it comes to shame and judgment and all of that. There can be a part 2. Thank you so much if you made it this far, for making it this far. If you have more or any questions or comments, you can send me a message on Facebook and Instagram at My Heart Speaks LLC. Thank you for being patient with me. I know it took a while to post another video. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.